Welcome back. We are in Paris, where world leaders are meeting to discuss the devastating impact of global warming and how to deal with that impact. In this particular show, we are putting emphasis on what is at stake for Kenya. The US and China are seen to be the largest contributors to global warming among other industrialized nations. However, while blame may be heaped on those nations, observers say everyone at individual level, through their activities or way of life, contributes to global warming, however small.
Anyone who drives a vehicle is actually contributing to greenhouse gases. Or in the manufacturing industry, all industries actually contribute to greenhouse gases. They contribute to emissions.
Burning of plant residue after harvesting of maize or crops like that, we burn them. We contribute to the destruction of the ozone layer. And by the way, we are encouraging farmers to use the same material, for example, maize, either to feed the animals or return them the soil so that they can maintain the soil fertility in their farms.
We need to have the 10% tree cover, and this indeed is also in our constitution. And we are doing everything, as a government and other stakeholders, to plant trees, so that we can actually attain this 10% tree cover.
We say that the trees are the lungs of the earth.
It is against this background that stakeholders have stepped up campaigns to raise awareness on the role of citizens in mitigation measures and adaptation to climate change, apart from what their governments ought to do. But the relevant institutions in climate-sensitive sectors have a bigger role to play. What strategies, for example, are in place to help farmers overcome the impact of global warming on food production?
So the key areas which we are focusing to mitigate the effects of climate change is, one of them is conservation agriculture or conservation tillage, whereby we minimize the amount of area we expose. The other area which we are focusing on is drip irrigation, because furrow irrigation or sprinkler irrigation uses a lot of water. So we are focusing on drip irrigation. The other areas which we are focusing on is on those crops, traditional high-value crops, which are resilient or resistant to drought. For example, the sorghums, the millets, the sweet potatoes, the cowpeas, the pigeon peas. We are also looking at traditional animals which are resistant to diseases and emerging pests. And what we have done is that we have crossbred, for example, the Holstein Friesian, which is very popular in the highlands of Kenya. We have crossed it with a Saiwa to have a crossbreed which fits into the semi-arid areas, which is high yielding, at the same time resistant to the diseases and pests found in those areas.
They say information is power, and this is one of the areas development partners are emphasizing.
Adaptation is crucial. One of the most important things that an economy, a country, or communities need for effective adaptation is very useful and relevant and timely information about climate. What will the climate look like on a shorter seasonal timescale? How will that information be used for farmers, for water managers, for generating hydropower, for ensuring that the crops that you'll be planting are going to be resilient to any kinds of sustained long-term drought or even severe rainfall, the kind that we're seeing now in this El Nino event. So we work very closely with RCMRD as well as EGAD and their Climate Prediction Center to help inform forecasts for East Africa. So all of the forecasts that you would see in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, those forecasts are very much informed by the regional climate outlook for East Africa, which is done on a seasonal and annual basis every year. And so our work is helping to build the science behind the forecasting. On a community level, let me give you an example here in Kenya. We partner with the Northern Rangelands Trust in northern Kenya, and they've done really incredible work to improve the quality of rangelands and through improved management and grazing of livestock in what are very arid regions of northern Kenya, as you know. Those communities are extremely vulnerable to recurrent drought. over the last year, they've been able to improve substantially over 1 million hectares of rangeland with improved grazing management, removal of invasive species, planting of the kinds of seeds that are resilient to drought. So this is changing the lives of rural pastoralist communities in northern Kenya so that they can have a profitable livestock enterprise at a community level and also ensure water availability for those communities. So we've just rolled out a brand new program with the Northern Rangelands Trust over the next 5 years. It's the Climate Resilient Community Conservancy Program because we really believe that adaptation is necessary as well at the community or landscape level.
All climate change or environmental degradation and its impact was supposed to be a government's, affair and development partners' affair. But today, even communities where we are working with are aware of the fact that it is their duty, and it is for this reason that if you see the preparedness of Kenya today is better than the last time in 2007. We are having, they have put in the county, different counties have put, disaster risk management, plans. They have their contingency plans. To our surprise, we went to Turkana and there was a contingency plan.
In Paris, the rallying call is Ensemble pour le climat, meaning together for the climate, amid the realization that even conflicts can be triggered by climate change.
For us in the UN, we take this as a global movement which puts emphasis on livelihoods, on resilience, but also which makes people think of the future generation to come. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the generation that comes, to our children.
Kenya has been a leader in Africa on this issue. Kenya was among the very first countries in the world to submit its post-2020 goals on climate change. In Kenya, the government, the people of Kenya deserve commendation, deserve to be commended for having done this. Kenya has done a number of things to help address this problem, and I look forward to the United States and Kenya working together in Paris to help achieve this agreement. Addressing the threat that climate change poses is one of President Obama's and one of Secretary Kerry's top foreign policy objectives. It really is critical that we begin to address this problem, which really threatens all of us, men, women, and children all across the globe.
This is President Barack Obama's commitment.
Our climate is changing. It's changing in ways that threaten our economy, our security, and our health. This isn't opinion, it's fact, backed up by decades of carefully collected data and overwhelming scientific consensus. And it has serious implications for the way that we live now. We can see it and we can feel it. Hotter summers, rising sea levels, extreme weather events like stronger storms, deeper droughts, and longer wildfire seasons. All disasters that are becoming more frequent, more expensive, and more dangerous. Our own families experience it too. Over the past 3 decades, asthma rates have more than doubled. And as temperatures keep warming and smog gets worse, those Americans will be at even greater risk of landing in the hospital. Climate change is not a problem for another generation, not anymore. Power plants are the single biggest source of the harmful carbon pollution that contributes to climate change. But until now, there have been no federal limits to the amount of that pollution those plants can dump into the air. Think about that. We limit the amount of toxic chemicals like mercury and sulfur and arsenic in our air and water, and we're better off for it. But existing power plants can still dump unlimited amounts of harmful carbon pollution into the air we breathe. For the sake of our kids, for the health and safety of all Americans, that's about to change. We've been working with states and power companies to make sure they've got the flexibility they need to cut this pollution, all while lowering energy bills, ensuring reliable service, and paving the way for new, job-creating innovations that help America lead the world forward. If you believe, like I do, that we can't condemn our kids and grandkids to a planet that's beyond fixing, then I'm asking you to share this message with your friends and family. Push your own communities to adopt smarter, more sustainable practices. Remind everyone who represents you that protecting the world we leave to our children is a prerequisite for your vote. Join us. We can do this. It's time for America and the world to act. on climate change.
Thank you so much for your attention, and we hope you can join us again next week for yet another informative edition on the ongoing talks on climate change in Paris. And on behalf of the crew, I'm your host, Alex Chamwada. Bye-bye for now.